Sometimes massive policies come with humble beginnings, smeared with cocktail sauce. Welcome to American Esoterica. If history class gives you the midwinter, this is the dry, cracking skin. The essential stuff in between. The personalities, events, and other ephemera that shape our history and culture. I'm Brian Powers. No matter whether you agree or disagree, supply-side economics have been a major policy force in American politics for nearly 50 years. You may know them better as trickle-down economics, or if you're still bitter about the 1980 Republican primary, voodoo economics. The basic idea is that economic gains can be made by cutting taxes on the rich, who then definitely invest that money back into their businesses and create growth, and not just hoard it or, buy more yachts. This hypothetically would result in greater government tax revenue. To simplify, lower taxes on high earners equals more tax money somehow. It's a difficult concept to get across, but young economist Dr. Arthur Laffer was determined to try. One evening in September 1974, frustrated by the Ford administration's decision to raise taxes to combat inflation, four men met at a Washington, D.C. restaurant. One of them was a journalist, Jude Wanniski. Two of them were Ford administration staffers, and Dr. Laffer rounded out the group. During the meal, he explained his theory that contemporary tax policy was all wrong, and that continuing to raise taxes would at some point begin to have diminishing returns, instead leading to declining revenues. He needed some way to illustrate his point, but being at dinner, there was a shortage of paper. So Laffer grabbed the next closest thing, a napkin, and immediately began sketching out his idea. He showed a theoretical curve of taxation, where a tax rate of 0% and a tax rate of 100% both lead to no revenue. Somewhere between, he argued, there was a tipping point for where tax rate increases would begin to degrade revenue. This should be the focal point of tax policy, according to Laffer. Everyone at the table was flabbergasted. Wanniski made what he coined the Laffer curve the central focus of a book he wrote on economic policy. And the Ford administration staffers weren't some low-level minions. They were Ford's chief of staff and his deputy, seeking out policy answers to declining approval ratings and stagflation, when both inflation and unemployment increased together, heading into an oncoming presidential election. While the policy didn't gain ground with the Ford administration, these two conservative policy wonks kept the idea in their back pocket. And soon the dinner party guests found themselves all back around the same table again a little further down the road. In the primary election of 1980, Wanniski served as an advisor to the former governor of California, Ronald Reagan. Wanniski sold Reagan on the idea that it was possible to cut taxes to spur growth without cutting entitlements, and that became the candidate's main economic message, often lambasted by his opponent, George H.W. Bush. Once elected, Reagan solicited Laffer's assistance with his first big package of tax cuts in 1981, slashing the highest marginal tax rates by 25%. There's still debate over whether cutting taxes yields the effects promised by supply-side economics, but it has been the cornerstone of conservative tax policy since its embrace by Reagan. In 2015, the Smithsonian Institute put a napkin on display with Arthur Laffer's sketched curve and other notes, dated and signed to one of Ford's staffers from the dinner. The funny thing is, it's probably not the right napkin. While it came from Wanniski's estate, it's a cloth napkin, while Laffer believes that he only doodled on a paper cocktail napkin. A few other details are off as well, but the artifact is probably at least a genuine keepsake made by Laffer around the same time. It's just not the genuine article of the most consequential napkin of the last 50 years. Those two Ford administration staffers continued as proponents of supply-side economics for decades to come, influencing at least two more administrations at the highest levels, in various roles from congressman and special envoy to Secretary of Defense and Vice President. Preaching the gospel of Dr. Arthur Laffer well into the 21st century were former Ford administration players Dick Cheney and, you guessed it, Donald Rumsfeld. This has been American Esoterica. All sounds were made by me, Brian Powers. Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Just want to show me your own cocktail napkin sketches in case they produce major policy changes? Drop me a note. The address is yell@americanesoterica.com. More information on the show and its episodes can be found at americanesoterica.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless America.